Hoping to dominate the Group A category is Tony Pond in his Rover Vitesse.
Realistically, what sort of chance have you got with this Group A car, Tony?
Overall-wise, I think we would hope to finish in the top 10, but that isn't our main aim, really. What we want to do is try and win Group A. I mean, that's what I'm paid to do.
So who are you competing against in Group A, then?
We've got the Volkswagen Golf, Saab Turbos. It's quite a strong class, actually.
Coming up for 5.
And now Britain's
4,
Tony Pond, co-driven by Rob Arthur, is on the start line of the first stage.
Go. 200, go sharpish left and right through gate.
This is the Rover's third rally outing in Britain this season, the previous two being the all-tarmac Circuit of Ireland and the Manx International, where Pond finished a splendid third.
Because we've never taken this car in the forest, so we don't really know what it'll do. I am very optimistic. I mean, the car in testing seems very good, but when you test against yourself. You don't test against other people. This is the test.
250 comes round, long right. Coming around. Straight through gate. Medium right.
In the past, Pond has had some widely publicised mishaps on Sunday runs of the Lombard RAC. Anxious not to repeat the process and make any mistakes so early in the event, he is quite clearly treating the roads of Knowsley with some respect. The big, powerful 280 horsepower Rover being threaded carefully over this very first test. But Pond's luck is about to run out once again.
All right, let's get out and have a look.
The car's sickening impact against a tree spells serious damage, and it's quite clear the Rover isn't going to go much further. Pond tries desperately to extricate the stricken machine, but it's to no avail.
It's gone, isn't it?
Co-driver Rob Arthur voices the two men's worst fears. From outside, the carnage looks even worse as marshals spring to the team's aid. Somehow or another, they're going to try and get it back on the road and to the end of the special stage. Helped by hordes of eager hands willing him on, Pond struggles valiantly with the car and eventually succeeds in reaching the end of the test. But there's nothing that can be done to avert an unmitigated disaster for Austin Rover and a very personal tragedy for Tony Pond and Rob Arthur. 8 a.m. and Hannu Mikkola, last year's world champion, is flagged away by his successor to the title, Stig Blomqvist, bitterly disappointed not to be competing. The first special stage is the Toyota Knowsley Safari Park, and Vatanen immediately takes the lead. But Mikkola has already been off the road, and in the ensuing fracas, the Audi's horn is jammed on. Britain's best hope for a win on the Lombard RAC is Cumbria's Malcolm Wilson, driving his privately entered Audi Quattro. And the French girl Michèle Mouton is grimly determined to finish a poor season on a high note with her 500 horsepower Audi Quattro Sport, the most powerful machine in the rally. After two national rally wins in recent weeks, including a sensational victory over Michèle on the Audi National, Malcolm Wilson is in great form. As is the American champion John Buffon, fresh from his first European rally win in Cyprus. No time to spend a penny as Mademoiselle Mouton powers on to Sutton Park. Clearly the Quattro Sport is quite a handful. At St Trentham Gardens, the first day's action draws to a close, but competitors know only too well that the real rally begins tomorrow. In second place overnight, Michèle Mouton is now having to cope with a failing transmission, and she ends this test with a two-wheel drive Quattro. And in fourth place is Hannu Mikkola, forcing his way back up the field following that indiscretion in Knowsley, which dropped him to 33rd place. Malcolm Wilson is poised to move into 4th place, yet his Audi is wreathed in blue smoke, the telltale legacy of an oil seal failure, which will lead to major transmission trouble. Already the car's clutch is all but useless. As the rally moves further north to the Scottish borders and through the forests of Castle Ur, Twigleys and Craig, so Vatanen remorselessly extends his lead. Mikola has now shouldered his way into 2nd place, using all his Quattro driving skill to try and stay on terms. And urging her Quattro Sport repeatedly to its rev limiter, Michel Mouton is restored to the fray with a new gearbox. Mikola's so far vain chase of Vatanen has taken him almost 9 whole minutes clear of any other competitor. It's very much a 2-horse race. Thanks partly to a puncture, Michel Mouton has been almost constantly under pressure during the night from a hard-charging John Buffon, who previously snatched 3rd place before the French lady grabbed it back from him. Now there's just a handful of seconds between them. Wednesday morning at Loughton Park, the start of the final clockwise loop through Wales, and Vatanen's lead has been stretched to over 4 minutes. At Male Scott in the Forest of Dean, he's looking as secure and dominant as ever.
Keep back, everybody. Keep back, please.
But Mikola, 4 times a winner on the Lombard RAC, has never been one to abandon a chase without a fight. And although the big Quattro is at a disadvantage, he's still trying hard to maintain some pressure on the leader. 8 minutes behind Hanu, Michel Mouton has been unable to exploit the Quattro Sport's awesome horsepower. And the battle between herself in the only official factory-supported Audi on the event and the long wheelbase A2 version of John Buffon continues apace. The American has been improving all year, and he's now giving a splendid World Championship performance. Co-driven by Chester-based Neil Wilson, he's just 56 seconds behind the French girl. Michel Mouton has also survived a difficult night, complicated by more transmission trouble. The reward is a hard-won 3rd place. But there's one last twist to this event. Mikola's down-on power Quattro has led it once, and now with just a handful of stages remaining, Vatanen's car breaks the rear drive shaft, loses a minute, and with it, the lead for a 2nd time. For just one stage, the old master once again has his nose in front.
The first stage only yards from the start ramp and around the grounds of Cardiff Castle, 1.5 miles of tarmac, which the leading crews will complete in around 90 seconds. Not being particularly fond of tarmac stage as well, and is determined to keep in touch with his more illustrious rivals. Michel Mouton really has been outpsyched by all the Eppin stories and is well off the pace. Flat out in 5th gear, it's not difficult to understand why Michel Mouton works hard with the big Quattro, which although not suited to the tight, narrow, twisty stage, still sets fastest time. Birthday boy Di Llewellyn, partnered by Phil Short, squirts the 2nd of the Audi UK Quattros around the tarmac test. Lord and Ron Varley use every bit of the road in the Quattro, as does local ace Bob Fowden. The wider, more open stages suiting him and tire choice and a spin on stage 1 puts Chris Lord down in the mid-teens. With the tarmac behind them, crews move into the forests and the real meat of the rally. Wilson, by dint of some determined driving, has narrowed the advantage the Manta's gained over it. Di Llewellyn has gained confidence in the Quattro during the past 2 months, and it shows with a fine 4th place at this stage. All the determination that he used to show 2 or 3 years ago, and now holds the lead. Michelle has steadily improved her position during the night through the forest and lies in 4th place. Alan had been as high as 2nd overall at one point, but alternator failure on one stage meant he had to drive 6 miles on his sidelights. And as a result, Chris Lord, however, looks as if he's under all sorts of pressure. Trying too hard, he went off the road and rolled up a fire break. To dominate and really looked as if he had a new lease of life. Michel Mouton was now up to second place. Settled for fourth place by this point, whilst Tony Pond was still plugging away and only seconds away from Terry Cabins. The final stage at Pembroke, and Malcolm Wilson and co-driver Nigel Harris power through the stage as they head for a well-deserved victory. Michel Mouton with co-driver Fabrizia Pons, despite Epping and despite this last-minute puncture, made it into second place. To net fourth position, only 8 seconds behind McRae. Tony Pond and Rob Arthur, well, Chris and Ron made it to the finish in 7th place, although when our camera caught up with them, they thought they'd done slightly better.
Meanwhile, Mikola's early disaster had fired his determination. He was at the bottom of the field. Mikola covered the 8.5 mile stage at an average of more than 60 miles an hour, a full 10 seconds faster. In a blaze of light, Mikola arrived, and it wasn't just his lights. Marshals reported his brakes were glowing too. Mikola broke the front drive shaft on the stage, but he carried on and still beat the target time by 12 seconds. But Mikola stormed along, now in the top 5 after going right up the field. Mikola chased hard and proved a real threat to the leadership. And just over his shoulder was the big Quattro of Mikola, which just raced up the field. Mikola knew the fight was over and a steady drive home would give him victory.